It should come as no surprise, but I love warships, especially destroyers. So, in today's video, I'll list my top 10 favorite preserved American warships. This is just my opinion, and warning that I may be a bit biased with destroyers. My channel logo should say it all. Coming in at number 10 is the USS Yorktown CV-10, an Essex-class aircraft carrier named after the Battle of Yorktown, but many, including myself, like to say that she was named after the first USS Yorktown, which was almost unsinkable. I love how versatile the Essex-class were, and the Yorktown is by far my favorite Essex-class carrier of all time, and is barely beaten out for my favorite carrier of all time. The previous Yorktown was an absolute beast, and this Yorktown carries her name with pride, and was great in her own right. I am fascinated by the history of the first Yorktown, and it seems to have carried over to the second USS Yorktown. She definitely deserves the number 10 spot on this list. And no, it's not 10 because her name's CV-10, I just realized that. Coming in at number 9 is yet another carrier, and the last on the list. This time, it's the lead ship of the Midway class, which was supposed to replace the Essex class, but they didn't. Of course, it's the USS Midway, the first of the super carriers, and she missed World War II by a hair by only a few weeks. Named after the Battle of Midway, she's a beauty and one of my favorite carriers of all time. And she wears her name with pride. She educates so many, and is the flagship of the American Aircraft Museum ships. It's surprising that I don't have any ships above her, but in the carrier-only field, she would be at the very top, without a doubt. Coming in at number 8 is the first of many destroyers on this list, one of 58 Allen M. Sumner class destroyers, and the only survivor. The USS SLFI is one of my favorite American destroyers. I can't deny I love the twin turrets on destroyers, but she only has 3. She looks great, but she does look odd at some angles. While I love SLFI, she does get ignored by most. She did her job with ease, and is a simple yet effective destroyer, and that is why I love the USS SLFI. Coming in at number 7 is the only submarine on the list, and my favorite submarine ever. One that took down the IJN Shokaku, which was one of the largest Japanese carriers of World War II. The USS Kavala, against all odds, did it all, and returned safely home. She is by far my favorite submarine, not only of World War II vintage, but of all time. She was adored by her crew, and now her many, many fans. She might be small compared to the submarines of the American Navy today, but submarines like her helped save the world in the Pacific. She was a lone wolf, but never failed and never gave up. I love the Kavala, and I always will, no matter what. Coming in at number 6 is the first battleship on the list. One of 4 Iowa class, the USS New Jersey was the 3rd largest battleship built for the US Navy. She served on and off for decades, and is one of the most well cared for museum ships that I know of. Her staff were dedicated to preserving her for generations, and she just has something to her that I love. I can't really put it into words, but I know that she is safe, and especially thanks to her staff and caretakers, she is guaranteed to be around for the many, many generations to come. Coming in at number 5 is the last remaining dreadnought battleship. The only battleship left from the First World War, and one of the few ships left that served in both World Wars. She's the oldest battleship museum, and was the first of all 8 survivors to be preserved. Of course, it's old and reliable, the USS Texas. What's not to love about her? Well, besides her being neglected for decades and now in a shipyard undergoing a ton of repairs, at least she's being looked after properly now. I love her turret configuration. She's loved by so many. I can't begin to list all my reasons here, as there are many, probably enough to sink her. but she definitely belongs in the number 5 spot, and even higher in an American battleship only list. Coming in at number 4 is the Pirate Destroyer. The current USS Kid flies the Jolly Roger flag, but that was started by this USS Kid, aka the first Pirate Kid. Who doesn't love a destroyer flying the Jolly Roger in a battle? One of the plentiful Fletcher-class destroyers of World War II, she stood out with her nickname, Pirate of the Atlantic and Pacific. And she lived up to it too. I adore destroyers, and the Kid is one of my favorites. There are so many things I love about her that they need their own video. She deserved number 4 on this list, and higher on a destroyer-only tier list, which will happen eventually. Now, the only cruiser on this list, and the lone survivor of the 3 Des Moines-class heavy cruiser. She's by far not only my favorite American cruiser, but my favorite cruiser of all time. I love her design, and she did her job with ease, and I love the look of her. Everything fits. I love heavy cruisers and their powerful guns, especially in triple turrets. I really like twin and triple turrets. There are too many good things to list here, so that's a video for another time. But the Salem definitely deserves the number 3 spot on this list, and the title of my favorite cruiser of all time. Coming in at number 2 is the last destroyer on this list. I'm shocked I didn't put more, but she's one of my favorite destroyers of all time. Named after the tragic death of the 5 Sullivan brothers aboard the light cruiser USS Juno, she is the pride of Buffalo, along with 2 other ships, and is my favorite preserved American destroyer, with no other preserved American destroyer that can top her, and only one that can, the USS Johnston. But she was sunk during the Battle of Samar in World War II. But that's another list, and another story for another day. I love the Sullivans. She has a strong community around her, and a following for generations. While she might be retired, at least the name is carried in service, just like the USS Kid, by another destroyer, both of them being Arleigh Burke class. She is the last living reminder of why ships don't have all siblings on board, and why the American Navy, not only the American Navy, but the American military as a whole adopted this whole survivor policy. Which means, if you let's say have 5 sons go to war, as soon as 4 of them die, the 5th one has to come home. The Sullivans is also a living reminder of the 5 lost brothers, and their amazing brotherly bond. That is one of the main reasons why I love the USS Sullivans so much. Coming in at first place is the flagship of the preserved warship fleet, if not of the entire American Navy, the last of the American battleships after Wisconsin beat her to the finish line, making the USS Missouri BB63 the last of the American battleships. Today, Missouri washes over the wreck and the grave of the USS Arizona, but in her long service career, she was an absolute legend. From her service during World War II, with it ending on her very decks, the Korean War, and the ones that followed with few exceptions, she is adored by most. She, by a ridiculously large margin, is not only my favorite battleship of all time, but one of my favorite ships of all time. I can't imagine a better battleship to take her place in my heart. In fact, it's not possible. If Canada had a battleship, it would maybe give her a run for her money, but that's never happened. If HMCS Haida wasn't this channel's icon, there's no doubt in my mind Missouri would be in her place. In fact, Missouri was in her place originally. There are a million reasons why I love her, and maybe I'll post a video on it in the future. She is so deserving of the first place position on this list that it wasn't a question to put her anywhere else. I hope one day I can get out to Hawaii to see her in person, and if and when I do, you will probably all join me on that journey. I love the USS Missouri BB63, and I always always will.